Windows Home Server. Welcome back to Pushing Technology to the Limit. This is one of my other older videos that I've done in the past. I've had an older YouTube channel and now I'm repackaging it for this channel. There's still a lot of good information here, but there's also a lot of new operating systems out that have come out that are like Windows Home Server. I like it for several reasons, because instead of having to go through multiple drive letters, it just makes one, just so like if you have multiple hard drives on one system, it makes it in one large one. So like you take a 2 terabit drive and you take another 2 terabit drive, you can make it into 4 terabytes. Pretty easy. But like I said, this is an older video that I've repackaged, so just get what you can off it. And there's a lot of new versions of Windows Home Server out now than there was years ago. And actually, the one that I have that I will be running this video with is the first version of Windows Home Server. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you later then.
Today we will show you how to host a website at your house or office building. There's some good reasons to have a home server, and you can store large files without an FTP program, that's File Transfer Protocol. You can host your own websites and back up your workstations, and there's only about a couple of negatives I can think of right now on having a server. That is, if your power fails, your website go down. And the other thing is viruses. There's not much software out there for adware and virus scanning. As you know, the new computers that are coming out on market are 1 and 2 CPUs. The newer ones that I'm dealing with now that are 64-bit systems are coming out with 4 CPUs and 4 virtual CPUs, and which mean more power for things you would like to do with your computer. The reason why I'm dealing with virtual servers so that you don't have to buy another piece of equipment. But I started out with a regular tower that I've built from scratch with a store in my local area. That was nice for the time, but as soon as more computers came online, it was just guzzling more juice. So when you do virtual, you can use less equipment for doing the same amount of work. Especially for servers, don't need an awful lot of power because they are mainly for services in the background, and your desktop takes more power because it's running applications that go back to your server for files that are streamed over the network. And one of the programs that I've got is Bamboo Backup, and I'll be talking about prices in here in a few minutes. And I have right now 2 virtual servers online. One is the main server that hosts my website. The other one is a backup server, so if the first server goes down, I can always gear it up and make the adjustments to host my websites while I work on the main server. And backup is the most important thing when you're doing a server. backing up to the backup server, backing up to other hard drives. I use Netgear SC101 and SC101T, which is the newer ones out. And they are just virtual hard drives on your network that are connected to your computer for the Ethernet cable. Those don't have as many problems with getting viruses as your main C drive does. And one of the things that you also have to do when you back up is to have another drive that you just turn on, back it up, and shut it down. So if anything fails with the hard drives that are running on your network or your towers, you always have a spare copy. And the other, if they're small enough, you might want to save it to a CD or DVD for another backup. And the requirements that I've been using is a dual core CPU, 4 gigs of RAM. XP is an older operating system now that when I've done this video. Vista and Windows 7 have just been on the market. A 500 gig hard drive or larger. I'm running a 2 terabit, but it depends on how much data you want to save to your server. I've just done a test this past week with my laptop, and I have a built UPS uninterruptible power supply system, and to test to see how long that my laptop would run and my network for bare bones if the power went out, so that you can keep your website going, because a lot of the times your power will go out but your phone systems will stay on, like your DSL or your cable. And I was able to run my laptop and websites for 12 hours while the charge. And other videos that are coming up, I will show you how to build your own backup system that will work. And but that's another whole topic. This video is being built for YouTube, so it'll be broken up into 4 different sections, and they will be labeled. And you also can download this on my website at warnlive.com, and it will be in its entirety. It'll be either 40 to 50 minutes long once we're done. And please download and make copies for friends and family to view this if they're interested in having their own home server. Alright, for prices for equipment and software, if you already have a dual core 4 gigs of RAM computer, you're sufficient enough. Your server will take 1 gigabyte of RAM. Now it depends on what operating system you are running at this time. If you're running XP, with XP alone, it's about 250 megabytes of RAM with nothing running on it. With other software like virus software and different other applications that run in the background, you're running about 512 megabytes of RAM. Now with Windows Vista, just standing alone with nothing else installed, runs 1 gigabyte of RAM, and as well as Windows 7. Now you need to figure out your RAM capability. If you have 4 gigs of RAM, you'll need to figure out that it'll be a gig of RAM for your operating system and a gigabyte of RAM for your Windows home server. So that leaves you 2 gigabytes to run your host system, so that your host system is free of problems with running out of RAM. Now, prices on the virtual system. When I bought it, it was $200 at the VMware site. Plus, I bought this Windows Home Server in 2007. I paid $169 for it on Newegg. You can get it at Newegg now still, just an upgraded version. And understand that that Windows system is 32-bit, which you need to install the virtual system on your computer so it will run the 32 on the 64. You cannot install the 32-bit system directly to the hard drive. It will destroy your entire hard drive and put the Windows Home Server on that drive. You need to do it virtually. The Bamboo software for backing up is about $30. To start out, we're going to use a virtual machine. We're going to use VMware Workstation 7. I will be reading the text to you since it's quite small to see on this video. There's 3 tabs here. There's new virtual machine, new team, or open existing VM or team. Now the one that we're going to use today is new virtual machine. Now the wizard comes up and it says, what type of configuration do you want? There's typical, recommended, custom, advanced. Now for Windows Home Server, you want the custom. Depends on for me, I'm going to use custom because I have an ISO file image, and you got to do some configuration before you get to the point of installing your OS. Now on this window, it says virtual machine hardware compatibility, and it says workstation 6.5, 7.0. I leave that as the default. Now there's 3 choices here. It says install disk, install disk image ISO, or I will install the operating system later. I'm going to choose that. So I'm already on that because I've used it before. Click next. Here it gives you the guest operating systems. Microsoft Windows, Linux, Novell, Sun, VMware ESX, or other. Well, we're going to use the first one by default, and version, it will be Windows Vista. And there's other operating system choices, but for Windows Home Server, since Home Server is not supported by this VMware workstation, we're going to use Vista. Click next. I'll type in, I'm going to say test server. And it says location, you can have a C drive, but I have a spare drive on my computer, on my data drive. I'm going to use test server folder. Click OK, next. Now for this one, we're going to just use the default 1 processors, and there's number of cores per processor, 1. I wouldn't change this one at all. Later on, change this one if you got a dual core processor. You can change that to 2. I'm going to click next. Now change this down to 512 and click next. On the networking connection, it says there's let's see here. There's 4 options here. Use bridged networking. Use network translation NAT. Use host only networking, or do not use networking connection. We're going to stay with the first one here. It's not by default. It says gives the guest operating system direct access to external Ethernet network. The guest must have its own IP address on the external network, which is what we want. Here, on this, select the I/O adapter. You want bus logic. Now, we'll come up with an exclamation point saying Windows Vista does not support the bus logic adapter. Select the LSI logic or LSI logic SAS instead. But by my instructions that I've learned how to do this is to use the bus logic. Click next. Now you want to create a new virtual disk, and that's one we're going to use. And the other options is use existing virtual disk. Choose this option to reuse previous configured disks, which we don't have. It says use a physical disk for advanced users. Well, I've used this one right here, but it is a lot trickier to configure. So I'm going to use the create new virtual disk. That would be easier to run. Stay with the the SCSI recommended. Click next. Now for this version of Windows, we're going to use 80 gigabytes. And it says here, allocate all disk space now. We're going to click yes, or just click the checkbox, because I've installed this before on one that was small, and it took forever to install. Now it says under here, allocating the full capacity can enhance performance, but requires as much physical disk space as you specify for the virtual disk. If you do not allocate all disk space now, the virtual starts small and it creates quickly as it grows as you add applications, files, data. And there's 2 other options here. It says store virtual disks as a single file, or split virtual disks into 2 gig files. Splitting the disks makes it easier to move the virtual machine to another computer. Don't want that? Doesn't matter. Got a network anyways. Click next. And then I'm going to click next. And here's the summary. Name test server, location E test server, workstation 6.5, 7.0. Click next. Okay, now it says I got enough space now, and it will be creating the disk. This will take some time. This video is fast forward at 32x to show you what allocating the hard drive looks like. It took 1 hour to allocate the hard drive. Okay, this is where there's two tricky parts. You go to your floppy drive down here on the taskbar, double click, and then use floppy image file. I have one here. Now the file that you need to install this properly is a VM SCSI -1 .2.0.4 FLP driver. You need to download that from the VMware Workstation website. And click open. Click OK. Now in here, click the error says hard drive compatibility of hosting Windows Home Server was not found. Would you like to load additional storage drives? Yes, because I've just loaded that into my floppy disk. Okay, there's a driver. Click open. Now there's another tricky part coming up, and I'll say something about that when that happens. Okay, here it says welcome to Windows Home Server Setup. Windows Home Server Setup will guide you through the process of installing Windows Home Server on your computer. Click next. And then time currency format, English United States, keyboard input US. Click next. And it says load additional storage drives. Ensure all your hard drives are listed below. If you have additional hard drives that are not listed, please click the Load Drives button to load additional storage drives. We only have this one, 7 gigabytes. So click Next. And then it says what type of install do you want to perform? Installation type, new installation. If you're reinstalling, this would drop down to reinstall Windows. And it says here choose this option to install Home Server on this computer. Important: installing Windows Home Server will erase all data on all your hard drives. If you have data that you would like to preserve, please cancel this installation process now. Now, with virtual computers, that will not destroy your host operating system. This is on a virtual hard disk, so you're safe with the installation. Click next. Click I accept the license agreement. Next. Here it's going to ask you for your product key. I'm not going to put one in right now because it will allow you to keep continuing, but it will ask you when Windows starts to put one in. And then basically this is what it says when I press next. If you do not enter a product key, Windows Home Server setup can still proceed. After setup finishes, you must locate your product key and activate Windows Home Server within 30 days. Your product key is located on your home server or in the Windows Home Server DVD case. Click next. And then it says type a memorable name for your Windows Home Server. And it says home server name is server. Leave that like that is for now. You may change that later if you want. Here it says formatting hard drives. Windows Home Server setup will format the following hard drives and volumes. All existing files and data will be lost. And it says on the checkbox I acknowledge this will be deleted, and click next. It pops up another one that says all data on all of this computer's hard drive will be deleted. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. Now it says ready to install and hit start. Now here's the next part that you need to do. It says here on the error is NTLDR is missing. Please press any key to restart. Now before doing that, take your floppy drive and disconnect it, and come up here, power off, and it just says please check that you have shut down your guest operating system before powering off. Are you sure you want to power off virtual machine test server? And say do not show that again, and power off. Now I'm going to turn it back on again. I'll hit F6 repeatedly. It says setup could not determine the type of one or more mass storage devices installed in your system, or you have chosen to manually specify an adapter. Currently, setup will load support for the following mass storage devices. Currently none. And then it says below to specify an additional SCSI adapter, CD-ROM drives, or special disk controllers for use with Windows, including these for which you have a device support disk from a mass storage device manufacturer. If you do not have any device support disk from a mass storage device manufacturer, or do not want to specify additional mass storage devices for use with Windows, press enter. Well, we have to get my keyboard back. we need to turn the floppy drive back on by right clicking and hit connect. I'm going to go in the window and hit S. Now it says you have chosen to configure a SCSI adapter for use with Windows using a device support disk provided by an adapter manufacturer. Select the SCSI adapter you want from the following list, or press escape to return to the previous screen. Hit enter, and it says setup will load support for the following mass storage devices: VMware SCSI controller. And hit return. Now again, this error message comes up, so you need to go to your floppy drive, right click and disconnect. Come over here and right click and power off. Power on. This video is fast forward at 32x to show you what formatting the hard drive looks like. It took me 4 hours and 29 minutes to format this hard drive in virtual mode. On a physical hard drive computer, it would take me an hour to format and install the software.
like a thief in the night. Are you afraid to die? Are you afraid? Are you unsafe? Are you afraid to die? Are you afraid? Are you unsafe? Are you afraid to die? Are you afraid? Are you unsafe? Are you afraid to die?
If you have friends in glory land who left because of pain, thank God up there, they'll die no more. They'll suffer not again. Then weep not, friends.
Okay, now since you're in your home server, click the Windows Home Console. Now here, you'll see computers and backup, user account, shared folders, server storage, website manage websites, and website folders. And then there's the websites link. And these three right here I have installed already. So to start using your home server, create a user account. You put your name of the person there. It's going to be Test. I'm going to call the username Test. Well, I had to change my username, so I called it Server Testing. Click Next. Okay. Now here's where you can have access to all the shared folders on the server. I've already created a web folder that was called Websites, and I'm going to choose to let them all be read except for the websites. Click Finish. Click Done. Now, in order to access this computer from your desktop, you need to have your user account the same name as the server is. You need a password on your desktop computer. So, say like you have 3 desktop computers that you run yourself. I suggest that you create a user account with all the same username and password, so you don't have to remember each computer's login and username and passwords. Now here to start hosting your website, click Settings. Well, actually first, before you do that, go over to the network connections. You can see that it's assigned by DHCP. We don't want that. Click Properties, Internet Protocol TCP/IP. You can double click it or you just hit the Properties. Now click the use the following IP, and then your DNS, which would be provided by your ISP, is Internet Service Provider. Okay. And hit close. Then double check your connection, and it says manually configured. What I'm going to do now is go over to my main computer, it's the host computer, and configure my router. Go to Firefox or Internet Explorer, whichever one you prefer. Now just type in your router address. Enter. Okay. Click that, remember. Here, this is a small business class router, so it may be different than your home router, but you click Firewall, which is basically the same as in your home router, and you want your firewall enabled, you want your DOS protection enabled, block WAN requests disabled, remote management enabled, and then the HTTPS is enabled, and you need the port 8080. And on remote IP address, you want the IP address of your computer, so I'm going to type it here. I'm going to come back here and double check my IP address, make sure it's correct. Okay. And then, let's see here. Everything else is set, so you click Save. And then go to Single Port Forwarding. Maybe listed differently on your router. You need to enable HTTP port 80. Put your IP address in there and click the check box to enable it. And you need 443 opened up. Click apply or save settings. Okay, now that's ready. Just going to create a new page for when we want to make our website. Come back to your virtual server. Click settings, remote access, and it says website connectivity. Websites are off, turn them on. Now it says my router's fine. You can click the details and it'll give you a summary of what it's doing. And my exclamation point is verifying that your router supports UPnP standards, which is not really needed in this application. But everything else, if these are all red or have exclamation points, you won't be able to access the internet from your web server. You won't be able to host them. It says here verifying that your website is available on your home server. Good. Green. Verifying that remote access is available on your home server. Good. Verify that your router is accepting website connections. Good. This one right here is a biggie. If this one's not lit up in green, you're not going to have any access. And verifying that your router is accepting remote access connections. And that's another one that's a biggie. And then you just hit close. Set up your domain name. And you need a Hotmail account to create your live ID. Click next. Okay, my domain name is hostme@homeserver.com. Click next. And it says the domain name is set up. You are successful. Set up a domain name for your home server. Access your home server at this web domain name, hostme@homeserver.com. You can just make sure everything's running alright with when it comes up with a green check mark. It says we're all set to go. Now here's a I'm going to delete this just to be able to show you how to set up your own website. I'm going to click add a website. Create a new website that can be accessed from the internet. Click next. This right here is your website title. I'm going to name it test. Browse for the folder that you want, and I've made websites folder and test. Click that and click next. And here it says create a default web page. Don't need it. Create a default favicon on the site. That's okay. Add this link to your Windows Home Server homepage. I don't want that, because if you put it on, you never can get it off even when you delete the website. So I'm going to just leave that off, and I'm going to tell it to allow site to run on ASP applications. And do not check unless you want to keep your website away from Google or search engines. It says hide this site from search engines, Google, etc. I'm going to open that up so people can find me. Click finish. I'm going to go back over here to my main computer. Open up Firefox. And do http:// host. Okay, it brings it up, but I'm just going to type in there hostme dot home server .com. Hit return. Now you can have your links displayed on this side of the web page if you want. Now if you want to get to your website that I just created, just click after the com, delete all that other garbage, and so you got this whole link and /test. Enter, and there's your website all displayed for the world to see. That's basically all you have to do with the hosting your own websites. You can do a lot more with a server. There's to see your storage space. This will tell you that you have one hard drive, which is 80 gigabytes, and I'm using only about, looks like 25% of 74% of what I have free, which is not much.